The Sarkas were cursed. For centuries, war defined them. Bloodshed their birthright, death their shadow. No king had ever broken that cycle. No leader had dared to dream beyond it. Until Theresa. A queen who rose against the tide of history. A ruler who dared to imagine peace where only war had reigned. But fate spares no one who defies it. Her people turned from her. Her brother raised his blade against her. And in the end, she gave it all. Her life, her soul, her very essence. Not for glory, not for power, but for a future she would never see. Theresa's story is one of sacrifice and unshakable vision. To understand her, I'll trace her choices, her ideals, and the war she fought to avoid, until she couldn't. Theresa wasn't born a queen. She was a tailoress, stitching hope in a world of ruin. The Sarkas were warriors, mercenaries, survivors, but she saw them as more than that. Unlike the kings before her, she dreamed of peace. She dreamed of Sarkas free from war, from destruction, from the endless cycle that had trapped them for centuries. And so, she built Babel, a symbol of hope, a vision, a chance to carve a new path for her people. But change is never easy. While some followed her, many more rejected her. To them, Theresa's dream was weakness, an illusion unfit for a race that had survived through war alone. But she wasn't just a dreamer. She was a pioneer. Where others saw Originium as a weapon, as the source of suffering and corruption, Theresa saw something more. She was the first person in Terra to manipulate Originium in an entirely new way, to turn it into flowers. A force of death reshaped into something full of life. It was a small step, but it was the beginning of something greater. If Originium, the cause of so much pain, could be transformed, then perhaps so could her people. After all, Originium's true purpose was supposed to be the hope for the future. Theresa's dream did not fall. It faced its greatest trial. Her brother, Theresis, had once stood beside her. Together, they rebuilt Kasdal from ashes, forged a new capital, a nomadic city defying its past. The myriad souls of the Sarkas had guided them to the Black Crown. The Black Crown did not choose one over the other, it chose them both, but it was Theresis who placed it upon Theresa's head, not in surrender, but in faith. He saw in her the queen who could be the symbol of hope for the Sarkas. The one who could do what no king had done before her. We will always be equal, Theresa said. A promise, a final note. But belief is not the same as agreement. Where Theresa saw peace, Theresa saw weakness. He believed power, war, was the only path to freedom. Their visions clashed, and that clash became a civil war. Theresa turned on Babel, his siege a blade aimed at his sister's heart. Yet, it was only half the wound. Another blade waited within. The Sarkas themselves dealt Theresa a wound just as deep. Did they hate her? Far from it. They revered her, her gentleness, her resolve, the queen who had stitched hope from ruin. Yet, when she stood before them, pleading for a future without war, they turned away. "We are going," they said. "We are going." Their words rang like a march, steady and unyielding, a vow to war, to death, to the fate they had always known. To them, her dream was a fleeting light, too fate against the tide pulling them back to battle. Their resolve stood firm, a wall she couldn't breach. Theresa fell silent. She met their gaze, saw the determination in their eyes, the steel of people bound to war, and her last hope slipped away. No one knew them as well as she did, their scars and their will. With a quiet breath, she accepted it, not broken, but bearing the truth. Her people would go and die yet again. Her confident, her strategist, even the doctor had chosen his own people and Theresa's. He disabled Babel's defenses and let the assassins through. At this point, Theresa knew the choice the doctor had made. And yet, in her last moments, she faced him. Not with anger, but with something deeper. "This is my little revenge on you, and my final gift," she whispered, her voice soft as fading light. Then, she reached into his mind and erased it. Not to punish, not to destroy, but to save. She saw the good in him, the spark he had buried beneath his choices. With her last act, she stripped away his guilt, his past, betting everything on the man he could become. And in time, she was right. Before the end, Theresa found her heir. Not a Sarkas, not a warrior, a young courteous girl named Amia. Theresa did not want to force this burden upon her, but she had no choice. She saw in Amia what her people couldn't, a heart unshackled by war, a soul that could carry her dream further. So, she gave her the black crown, the mark of Sarkas' kingship. And the doctor? He had been both Theresa's greatest failure and her greatest gamble. Even after his betrayal, she did not cast him aside. And in doing so, she set the foundation for Rhodes Island, the very force that would protect her dream long after she was gone. Theresa knew change demanded more than tradition. It demanded someone who could surpass her. Amia became her legacy, Khalset its protector, and the doctor its guide. One who, despite his forgotten past, would help shape the future she envisioned. Theresa's story should have ended there, but death isn't final in Terra. Resurrected by the Confessorius, she returned. Not as Babel's gentle queen, but tempered by the weight of her past. Theresa had won the war, and now she stood beside him, a crown, a memory. Her hands wielding the fire she once refused, not out of surrender, not out of hate, but necessity. She had learned the bitter truth. Ideals alone couldn't shield her people. Her flowers had faded, but never lost their color. Her gentleness tempered, but still warm. This was no retreat from who she had been. Her heart still beat for the Sarkas. Her vision and dream still unbroken. Theresa's first defiance was turning Originium into flowers, a fragile hope against this brutal world. Her last was far greater. Through Amnana, the first Originium shard, she stepped into the assimilated universe, a realm where the Sarkas' souls had been trapped for centuries, the torment imprisoned into its very foundation, the realm of the creators. Theresa did not accept the fate written into that world. Within its depths, she reached into the laws that bound the Sarkas to endless agony and rewrote them. The chains forged by Originium were served, the cycle of suffering undone. The myriad souls that had only known war, only torment, were finally freed. Her body fell, her soul remained, but for the first time in history, the Sarkas could rest. Such change did not come without a cost. Theresa's actions required her greatest sacrifice yet again. Her spirit could no longer return to the mortal world, forever entwined within the universe she had reshaped. Yet, this was not a tragedy. This was the price of freedom. The Sarkas were no longer bound by fate, their suffering now only a memory, and Theresa, she would live on, not as a ruler, but as a legend in the hearts of those she left behind. Theresa had carved a path, but it was not hers to walk. Her time had ended. And yet, there was one last thing left to do. She met the doctor one last time, the one who had once stood beside her, then turned against her. The one she had punished, not out of cruelty, but out of hope. Now She saw him for what he had become, no longer a servant to the past, but a force guiding the future. There was no resentment in her gaze, no regret, only peace. Her hands, once warm, now frail, reached out, not to erase, but to release. Her final gift to him had been freedom, and in the end, he had made the choice she had always believed he would. Then there was W, no longer just a mercenary, no longer a rogue, the girl she had once saved, the one she had given a new name, Visadel. Theresa had always known that W would walk her own path, a path that led through fire and chaos, yet never wavered from the one truth that mattered: freedom. She did not tell W to change. She did not ask her to follow. She simply left behind the only thing W ever needed: a choice. And for Visadel, that was enough. Despite living for an eternity, Kalsit had wandered without a true purpose. Her existence marked by duty, but not direction. Yet Theresa, with her unwavering hope and love, illuminated a path for Kalsit, one of self-discovery and meaning. This gift, forged in their shared struggles, became Kalsit's guiding star, a legacy she would eternally cherish and relentlessly pursue. There were no words left to say, only mutual understanding. Theresa had entrusted her dream to the future, and Kalsit would ensure it lived on. Amia had surpassed her. That was how it should be. Theresa had given her the black crown, not as a ruler, not as a conqueror, but as a promise. Amia was not bound by the Sarka's past. She was something new, something more. Theresa chose her not for similarity, but difference. Amia could go where she couldn't, beyond war, beyond despair. She carved the way and left Amia to shape the flame. And so, surrounded by the people she loved, Theresa, the queen who defied fate, closed her eyes for the last time. The siblings who longed for the same goal, the salvation of their people. Their ideals crashed, their methods differed, but their respect to each other always prevailed. Theresa with her sacrifice not only carved a way for Amia, but also Theresa's. She left behind the first shard, Amnanam, and so Theresa's gained access to the assimilated universe within. She gave him the key, and Theresa's followed it through. With joint effort, they managed to fend off their creator, a god. Their journey began and ended on the same path. Together, Theresa and Theresis, the siblings who confronted and defied a god, forged a legacy of hope for all of Terra's future. Theresa, the queen who dreamed of peace, whose heart outlasted the fire she defied. Her stories prove that even in the darkest times, hope can survive and the dream of a better future can be kept alive.